Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast today. We have returning guest Maya Dayan.
Hello, me
Yay!
again.
Well, and yeah, Maya is a certified facilitator of Access Consciousness and really awesome person that I just love having on the podcast. And we love to talk about everything, including relationships. And you are a facilitator of relationships done different.
Yeah, it's
Uh, do,
it's a very interesting specialty by Access Consciousness because it's one of the hardest topics to actually look it with brutal honesty at and like really desire to change it. Like there's a lot of talk about relationship, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, I love it, but yeah, it's a very interesting realm of like something that people are afraid of, resist, avoid, want to change, want to have, don't want to have. Like it's such a huge topic. So,
Well, and with what you just said, like want to have, don't want to have. I was looking at this yesterday. I was going on a walk and I was like, because there's this part where people are like, oh, if you just want sex, then just say it. But I'm like, okay, well, I guess I just want sex. But then, there's also that part of like, well, then I also, would like a long-term sustainable relationship in my life. But I mean, and then that's where that like I want a relationship, I don't want a relationship. Oh, I guess I just want sex. Well, maybe I don't just want that. It's such a
I wonder if I don't remember because we had many conversations, but I don't know if we ever talked about energy and congruency with energy with what you're saying, which again, it's a really big topic. And for me, everything in Access really opened that up for me. I would say mostly my first ESB class with Dr. Dayan here, and then listening to a lot of his material online. But because nobody taught us to be congruent with the energy of our words in our whole lives, kind of thing. So then we get to this stage at adulthood where we think we're saying that we desire one thing, but actually our energy is a totally different thing. And then it creates a lot of confusion, basically. And lo and behold, the relationship world is so confusing.
mhm. Yeah, and what would it take to make relationship not so significant and confusing? I think confusion is an interesting part because when emotions come into play, it's like then, I was also looking at feelings because I've talked to a couple of people and they're like, yeah, I just put my feelings aside and do, what's needed to do, whether it's like break up
Mm,
or, just be whatever it is in the relationship.
right.
So
Yeah.
like what would I know I kind of know a bit about the feelings and emotions, but what would you say in regards to when all those feelings, thoughts, feelings, and emotions come up?
Yeah. This is very cool because also that's why Access has so many like basic the 1 day class, I mean nowadays you can download an app called Access Me and you have access to everything they ever spoke about relationship in the palm of your hand kind of thing. So on one hand it's like it's a huge conversation and there's these blocks that we have that for me personally it assisted me a lot to get to the next level with all these things we're talking about, but yeah, I guess nowadays we're very free form with the information. But I would say that one of the basic things we learn in Access is that thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not real. Let's put it in a very simple term.
Mhm.
It's a process to even get to realize that like, and the one thing that we always say in Access is empower you to know what you know and follow what's right for you. So if I say that and you're like, okay, I don't, it doesn't do anything for you, that's fine. For
Mhm.
me, for me, it was a huge shift of paradigms. Like, okay, wait a minute. If all my thoughts, feelings, and emotions are not real, then what is available now, kind of thing. Like,
Mhm.
so It's funny because you mentioned like putting your feelings aside, and I guess in this reality that seems like an unkindness or like inconsiderate, or it's not considered a good thing to do. But actually, when we're in our feelings and we don't put them aside, we don't see what is. We don't see what's really going on. And that's why we're talking here about congruency with energy and awareness, because as long as you're doing unconsciousness or autopilot, you're not really seeing what's going on in this situation. There's a very cute YouTube video. It has nothing to do with consciousness or, anything about spirituality. It's called It's Not About the Nail, but it pretty much sums up this whole conversation. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
Like where a lady has like
yeah,
a nail in her head, and
yeah,
then someone trying to help her is like, "Hey, you have a nail in your head." She's like, "It's not about the nail. Why don't you just
exactly.
listen to me?" And they're like, "Yeah, but if you just took the nail out of your head, then, you wouldn't have a headache or that nail in your head." And she's just like freaking out about something else.
Well, she's talking about feelings and emotions and feelings and thoughts and emotions. And he's like, no, no, there's a very pragmatic thing going on here, which is what is real and true. And if we address this and put the feelings aside, and that's kind of the comic version of everything we do in relationships, really.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was also getting kind of present with whatever would come up and it's interesting how we could label things as, oh, this is a feeling and emotion, but it's like, well, when I sense something come up, if I were present with it, is it significant? Is it relevant? And then like what is it, right? Because if I'm just like, oh, it's a feeling and I'm going to react to the feeling, then it's like that's not like that's kind of like the nail in the head. There's something
Yeah.
coming up, but I'm like maybe labeling it as something else. But
Also, the interesting part about everything you're saying is that it seems to us like this is the harder work, but actually, it's such a shortcut. It takes a while, but it's such a
mhm.
shortcut to everything in your future. Like the more you do what you just presented, like ask a question, explore if where this is coming from, check if it's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, you're getting to a point where next time you have that conversation, or next time you have an argument with someone, or next time you're standing in front of a breakup or whatever, everything can be so much quicker and so much easier. So it's like this work, quote unquote, at the beginning, but it like just creates such a different future for you.
Well, I guess I had a question. So like with awareness with relationships, do you ever just know something, like let's just say whatever relationship it is, and like you can either see what they're going to do or you have an awareness of like what they might choose and could be in the future or now in the present. So like when you have that awareness, what do you do with it?
That's a great question. And also, it's really funny to me always because when we come to classes with the founder of Access Consciousness, Mr. Gary Douglas, like a lot of things are so significant. And, we're discovering the miracles and the secrets of consciousness. And then, like, when people ask about awareness, so many times he will just ask, like, did you ever sleep with someone? But you knew before you did it that you shouldn't have done it. It's like as simple as that. Like, if you start acknowledging those moments before the act that you knew exactly what future this is going to create. And again, it's not significant. It's like, okay, so you had a shitty date or whatever. Like, but that is a big part of us negating our awareness or just not acknowledging it, like later on, kind of thing. So he's bringing us back to those little moments in life where we did know exactly what we're choosing, what it will create, and we chose it anyways. And the biggest thing in access is that nothing is judged. And that's also, again, a huge topic. So, like, we can look at all those situations like the bad one night stand, but with no judgment. So we can acknowledge, oh, I knew. Oh, I knew it would be shitty. Oh, like the whole thing gets a very different release. And
Yeah.
it can be simple. And like you said, like it's not significant, but It's just again to assist us to create a different future in the sense of like, even when you're saying like, oh, I knew something and even if you chose against your knowing, even so, when you acknowledge you knew, that creates something. That creates something different.
Hmm.
Will you choose again? Will you choose the same thing the next time? Maybe. But maybe you open the door for you to know next time that you actually are aware in those 10 seconds and you can choose something different.
Yeah, it's funny because I've had some interesting conversations with people where, I mean, they might not do access consciousness, but they're kind of saying like, and you have choice, and then kind of saying like that there is room to choose greater. Like they're like, yeah, you can choose greater. And I'm like, and it's interesting because it's like, how do you like what would it take to continuously choose greater? And this is almost like one of those rocket science questions where it's like,
Totally.
if you're constantly choosing the same thing over and over again, let's just say we could put this in any realm, like
Yeah.
the work, the
The
job, the
debt.
money,
Yeah.
yeah, the debt, the monotonous life where you feel like, all these different things where you keep
The
continuously.
same type of person in a different body, like all the things.
And then on top of that, the actions and emotions. So, like, I know people can be like in their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but it's like, and I know, like, I've done access for quite a while, but it's kind of like also going beyond the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So, it's like the coolest thing can be
I
to,
love I love how exhausted you are even when you say it. Like you already gave up.
yeah, I'm like,
Do
I
we say the
started,
clearing statement on your podcast?
yeah, we can.
Okay, so everything that is everywhere. We already gave up on the possibility even to live beyond thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Can we just try to create all that?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, poveds, bases, creation, and beyonds.
Yep. There we go. And when I say the clearing statement to him, like, and creations and beyond, because we put that in there. So, wow, that's cool. So yeah, what we look at doing is kind of going beyond all of these things and then to actually do something different, choose something different, be something different. It's like,
Again, each case is so unique. I think with what you're talking about, like there's definitely where you are hyper aware of the other person's world and trying to do things for both of you, but it's like you can only be and do leadership with yourself, and then they can join or they cannot join, but you can't choose for other people, which I think is one of the things that a lot of us seekers deal with in one way or another, that we want to heal everyone, we want to save everyone, we want to take everyone on the journey with us. And again, I'm not talking just in relationship here, but like it's definitely a quality of seekers, healers, people who search something different are usually like what you're speaking of. It's kind of like, how much is this because you're trying to do it for the other person as well and not just for you.
yeah, this is such an interesting conversation because what would it take to one realize that you're the source and then like so source and power and like to look at you um in that regard,
Mhm.
whereas like a lot of people say this a lot, like, okay, you're trying to be the savior, the fifth element, you're trying to like do this for other people. And sometimes it's just maybe it's acknowledging it, but sometimes it's so difficult to see what it is that you are doing. And it's
Totally.
like, yeah. So it's like,
Totally. And that's why every time we're having these conversations, I'm like, it's like building, 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 like, and that's why it also goes hand in hand with the no judgment, because if we judge ourselves for the level of whatever consciousness and awareness we're at, it's kind of like we're looping back to the beginning versus being like, okay, I'm so much greater than I was yesterday or a year ago, or we can definitely choose either avenue and which acknowledgement would contribute to us more, judging ourselves or acknowledging ourselves.
And acknowledging is pretty cool. I think there's a lot of different levels. And then I think, to make people aware of what like a judgment may be, could be like making yourself wrong or in your head thinking. And then a lot of those things could also not be yours. It could be the impelled judgments as well. But it's like with acknowledging, you know, like
Well, you were
it's,
talking about the fifth element. If I bring you back to that, maybe that assists.
yeah. So, at like what age did we decide that we would be this fifth element? Or like I was
Which
looking at
is,
this.
sorry, just it is the savior, like what I was talking about
Mhm.
before on saving on any level. It's just a term for that thing.
And maybe we took on like, so maybe there's ways this comes into people's lives of like being either righteous or being the hero. Because in many stories, if we grew up watching TV shows, there's like always a hero and a
Mhm.
villain. Or if we wanted to save, like, and then like to save maybe a family member, or like we're so caring, so we have
Oh,
like a
yeah,
bleeding heart, right? So this is interesting because it's like this all comes from a concept, and maybe it comes from deep down caring, but like how often I kind of see where caring can be a detriment, where it's like you care so much, your bleeding heart, but
totally.
then that person can't receive it. you know
Right. It was like one of those like so basic analogies, but I definitely took that as a mother. Like I always have to put the oxygen mask on my face first in the airplane if I need to. Like always. And we forget it and we neglect it and we put ourselves aside. But I always go back to that. Like, oh, wait a minute. Where am I giving up everything that I can be and contribute to me that can, like, with my full cup, can contribute so much more to others versus being that bleeding savior.
well, what's funny is because I was paying attention to the presidential election, and I know that the Republicans won. And it was funny though, because what was so inspiring about that was it made me realize that I have to focus on me. I have to focus on my work, my job, my life and living. And I had had these like crazy hopes and dreams that, the Democrats would win. I was like, yeah, I'm happy. And then all of a sudden, when that didn't happen, I could sense before it happened, I had an awareness. I was like, oh, this might be one of those things where, has anyone ever said, oh, we're going to go to Disneyland? And then you wait for Disneyland, a year passes by, it doesn't happen.
Never
And then
comes.
it never, I had this feeling. I was like, uh-oh, this might not happen.
Yeah, and it's a great example of how we make external circumstances like it really doesn't matter if we have a preference over Democrats or Republicans. It's just like, again, putting our life source outside of us, basically, to all
That's
kinds of degrees.
and that's in so many degrees. It's kind of like how like it's funny because Gary Douglas, I was like, can you sign my book? I was such a fangirl. I still am.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah. Woohoo.
Testify.
Yeah. I brought a book and I was like, oh, can you sign it? And he wrote like never give you up, or something like never give you up again or something. And I was like, oh wow, like, and it's like on those different, like so many different like realms. It's like, have I, like, what would it take to stop giving myself up, whether it's for politics,
Mm.
relationship, family, all the list goes on and on and on. It's like I was really like, wow, I gotta fucking focus on me.
Mm. Yeah, and it's interesting because again, we go back to where we started with the energy. There is a way of like when the me is it includes everybody. Like I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how to explain it, but
It it sounds like to anyone listening, it could sound selfish, like, oh, you just want to focus on yourself. But the thing is when people, are, healthy, looking good, feeling good, working on their business, one, how they are is contributing to everything. They have the energy to be that, and it's an infinite contribution. And it is inspirational when someone's being successful in whatever they're doing. It's like, oh, like who is that? Oh, what are they doing?
Mm,
Oh, I want to be like that. But then again, don't give yourself up, because what is unique to you, like working on your business or even like family, your relationships, working on everything.
mhm.
I think when people do greater, then it creates a thrival mode that is inspirational and healthy, that contributes to the earth as well.
What do you say after that?
Right. Well,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I yeah, it's
And
interesting.
then it really goes back to the work. Like, okay, so, and then still tomorrow, I might have a relationship that this person aggravates me. And, like, I still have 10,000 choices to make throughout the day of, like, okay, if I was truly being what I want to be in the world, what would I choose here? And what would I choose here? And what would I choose here?
Yeah, I kind of look at things like, okay, so what's required rather than getting distracted with a lot of other things, like, hopes and dreams of like so sometimes I see things as unsustainable, like constantly spinning my tires and like going out and like doing things like that don't really contribute. Whereas if I'm like, okay, what's required? Oh, I have to do this. So I focus on what I need to do. And then I'm like, oh, and I can maybe add in other things like my business or maybe, a friendship or whatever. So it's like kind of like instead of being distracted with things that don't contribute, where is my attention required?
Yeah, and that's really a huge part of this journey muscle because initially, maybe you don't even know what's fun for you. Maybe you don't even know what will add to your life to a degree that, like, we didn't really learn to be kind to ourselves from the people around us. So it's a journey.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I was looking at this on a larger scale. How many people across the planet, grew up in interesting homes, different homes, under different circumstances where they were shaped and molded. And then, like, what I love about Access Consciousness is that it is a different space. And, there is it's actually an advanced body process, which has a lot of prerequisites, but there's a body process that is it involves infinite possibilities.
Okay.
And what's really cool about that is it kind of allows you to sense that energy. And so when you are, no matter where you are on this planet, if you sense that there is something greater, that is, I'm going to say this, a choice for possibility, which is a class in Access. But it's just you know um there is something greater out there, and so
Totally.
it is possible. And Access Consciousness is so much fun. Like
Oh my God.
i'm I'm anticipating, getting my bars run, doing some body processes. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely changed both of our lives dynamically, I believe is accurate to state.
Mm, yeah, for sure. Yep. Well, is there like anything? I think we kind of went around the world in like about 30 minutes.
Oh my
um
goodness, yeah. Yeah, I hope this is a contribution for anyone. And if anyone has a specific question, you can ping me or Shawna anytime, or you can ask us to talk about a certain topic. And of course, you can also book private sessions and more stuff like that if you require.
Yeah, so I'll put our links in the podcast. Maya's website is mayadayan.com. You can find both of us on the Access Consciousness website. My website is clarityandfreedomconsulting.com. Yeah, any questions at all, feel free to ask. And Maya, it's always so much fun to chat with you. I'm grateful for these conversations. I know that there's always some change,
Yeah.
like for sure. But yeah, well, and have a good weekend. And I know you're gonna go traveling around Europe, so are you
Yep.
looking forward to that?
I'm adding fun to my life, Shauna.
So much fun. That's so cool.
So
Like
much
I
fun. Yep.
that just sounds awesome. What like are is it going to be in like Italy or
I'll be in Italy. I'll be in Budapest. I'll be in Houston. I'll have a quite a ride.
that
I'm
sounds
excited.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you. See you probably in December.